So I make a lot of mistakes, and I'm really thankful for undo, the ability to go back and fix it when I control a backspace and blow away an English essay. And basically any program that lets you make changes to something, we're all human, they pretty much always let you undo those changes. And though I'm really thankful for undo, I actually couldn't figure out how to talk about it for 5 minutes. So I'm thankful for something even cooler than undo. So I'm Nick Frost, and this talk is about Git. So a bit about me. That's kind of an old picture. So I'm a third year. I love Ignite. I've never actually given a talk before. This is my first one. Yeah. So I owe my thanks to this guy, Linus Torvalds. He's a very angry Finnish hacker who made Linux. And he looked around at the landscape of ways to manage source code, and he hated them all. And he said, I'm going to write Git this weekend. And a weekend later, we had Git. And so what Git is it keeps me from doing that. So Git lets you, it solves a problem where you have some code and you want to change it, but you don't want to lose the old version of the code. And one way to do that is you can create a bunch of different copies of the code so that you have the old copy. Or you can do this. You can create commits. And so a commit is just a snapshot of all the files in your code so that when you change it later, you still can always have that commit, that exact state of all of your files the way that they were when you inevitably fuck it up and have to go back. And so you can roll back to any commit in the past. So you can go back and forth through your entire history. So even though you only have that one file, you still have all the other versions of that same file. What's the next slide? Yeah, and commit messages are really important. So we write really great descriptive messages, explaining what it is that we're doing. So someone can look at the log and say, oh, I know exactly what Nick was doing here last night. It's really great for figuring out what work was going on. But not everyone's like me. Some of you have friends. So Git's for you too. Different people can author different commits in the same repository, which is really great because that's a good way for people to write code on the same project and not smash away each other's changes and lose all your stuff. So there are websites that are dedicated to people sharing code, and they all use Git as the way to back all this. So these websites all just host Git repositories, and that's how most of the open source software in the world runs. So when you do that, something that's really crucial is Git blame. It'll show you who wrote every line of code and which commit that they wrote it in, so you know exactly who to email late at night when you're really mad that someone broke your code. It's very useful. But what if you don't actually know where the bug is? One thing that's really cool is you can just run the code and see, oh, it doesn't work. I know it worked before. So you check out to the commit where it worked before, and you say, oh, yeah, here it worked. So maybe you go to a middle commit. And here, OK, it still works, so the bug must have shown up later, right? You can check out a later one, and then finally you find a commit that's the first one where the bug shows up. So that's obviously where the bug happens. And then you can go and fix it, right? This is a really manual process, and it's kind of a pain. So Git actually will automate all of this for you. So Git bisect is a really cool tool. You basically just say, Git, my shit works. And then it'll say, cool, how about this one? Does this work? And then you run the code. You say, I don't know. No, it doesn't work. And it'll keep doing that over and over. And it says, OK, here you go. Here's the commit that broke. So it's really great. And then you can find the actual commit. And you can read the code that someone wrote that broke all of your stuff so that you can hopefully fix it. You can read their commit message and figure out what they were thinking when they broke all of your stuff. Yeah. So one other thing that's kind of cool that we can do is you can kind of go off on tangents. You can make some changes that are separate from your main revision history. Right? So you can write a bunch of broken code that's terrible, but your main code will still work. And once you're done with it, you can actually merge that code back in. So you'll create a new commit that'll be that'll have all of your new updated code and that experimental code that you were working on all back in the same single history tree. Or if you really don't like merges and you want kittens to cry, you can Git rebase instead. So you can take your branch and you can lay the changes on top of your main changes. It's terrible. Think of the kittens, please. Unfortunately, Git's pretty great, and it's got a lot of really cool stuff with it, but it can also be really kind of a pain when you first start using it. There are a lot of errors that are easy to run into that don't make a lot of sense. So Google is your friend. And of course, just as a personal thing, whenever I write some code for more than 30 minutes, I always put it in a Git repository. It's, once you're used to it, it's easy, it doesn't take much time, and it keeps you from being this guy. Thanks.